If you're concerned about your dog being afraid of fireworks and becoming gun shy as a hunting retriever, or you just got a regular dog and you don't want it to be afraid of fireworks this fourth, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy podcast. I'm Josh Parvin. I'm one of the founders of Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy, and I'm excited to be talking to you because this is a time of year where people get concerned. They get maybe even anxious about their dogs. And I would say this year in particular, is important because it's the big 250, America's 250th. What does that mean? There's probably going to be more fireworks than ever before. So I just wanted to hop on here and do a quick podcast to give you some do's and don'ts, really to help you prepare for how to set your dog up for success so that it doesn't become afraid of the fireworks. Now, before we go any further, I do want to say we actually recorded an episode recently with a friend of mine, CGA member Brandon. It's on the Build From Here podcast, and it will air on July 3rd. This is a podcast you're going to want to go dive in and listen to as well because Brandon actually ran into this problem. He had a firework incident with his dog. So what was really awesome was how he handled what happened. He's going to do a lot of what I recommended here. And there's even more to the story that I just think you would enjoy hearing. Maybe even if it happened to you, maybe you're watching this video right now post 4th of July, or you're listening to this podcast post 4th of July and you had some issues, then that podcast will be encouraging to you as well. So I will link it up below in the description on YouTube and on wherever you're listening to the podcast. If you look there, you can click on it and watch it there. Let's talk about fireworks and gunfire because at Cornerstone, we help people have outstanding hunting retrievers, right? We help them turn their puppies into amazing hunting retrievers with our step-by-step system that's built for the DIYer. Now, fireworks and gunfire kind of go hand in hand because they're loud noises, right? But in a lot of ways, fireworks are different than gunfire and vice versa. One of the big things is there's a lot of anticipation built up when you're getting ready to use gunfire, right? Whether you're introducing your dog to gunfire, you're on a hunt, whatever it may be, the circumstance, the setting is unique in that the dog knows what's about to happen. It's anticipating there to be something. On the contrary, when fireworks are involved, typically your dog's probably not going to be anticipating something. Why? Because it's in a relaxed environment. You're hanging around people, or maybe it's just in the yard and now your neighbor's shooting some random fireworks and your dog had no idea that that sound was going to come and scare it out of nowhere. So with that in mind, that's why we're talking about fireworks because in a lot of ways they're different than gunfire. And if you have a bad experience with fireworks, it can lead to gunfire issues. And we don't want that to happen. So what should you do? How should you prepare, especially if you've got a young puppy or a young dog? What should you be doing? What measures should you be doing? Or what precautions should you take to prepare for this? Well, that's what we're going to talk about here. First things first, let's talk about what not to do. The reason we want to talk about that is it's probably more important than even what to do. The big thing is if you find yourself in a situation where your dog gets afraid and the fireworks went off and now the dog is scared, do not, whatever you do not do this. Do not console and comfort your dog. As human beings, we want to do that, right? We want to nurture, we want to console, we want to do that. But what's going to happen if you do that with your dog? What's going to happen is it's actually going to reinforce the very thing that you're trying to eliminate. So do not do that. If you find yourself in a situation where it happens and now your dog is scared, understand this, you're the dog's leader. And if you start panicking, your dog is going to be panicking. So don't panic. Be calm, slowly remove your dog from the situation and act like nothing happened. Don't sit there and pet it saying it's going to be okay, buddy. Don't do that. Instead, just get it away from the situation and go do something else. Become distracted with something else. Turn on the TV, whatever it is. Do something to basically ignore what's going on out there. What your dog's going to take notice of is that you're not afraid, you're not panicking, and you're not concerned about these big loud booms that are going on. So it probably shouldn't either. That's one of the first things. Another thing is do not allow your dog or do not try to get your dog used to the sound of fireworks. Don't try to put your dog in a situation and just hold it there until it finally realizes that it's fine. That's not a good move. The best move is to slowly introduce them to that over time if you want your dog to be able to participate in the activities. So that's what not to do. Let's actually talk about some things that you can do. Prevention is always better than cure, and it's going to be the case in this situation as well. So if I've got a young puppy or a young dog that's never been exposed to fireworks and or gunfire or any of the above, let me just actually add this right here because it just came into my mind. You may have had a dog that's been exposed to gunfire, but has never been exposed to fireworks. If that's the case, don't treat fireworks as no big deal. You've got to treat it as its own separate thing. As we already talked about, fireworks and gunfire in a lot of ways are similar, but they're also different. So don't just assume because your dog is great with gunfire that it'll be great with fireworks. Anyways, I just had to throw that in there. But prevention is always best. So let's dive into things that you can do. First things first, let your dog out early enough before the fireworks start. Let it go to the bathroom, let it do its thing, air it out, give it some retrieves, get it worn out so that it will be ready to rest. Then get your dog inside and put it inside of a crate. I prefer to put them in a crate, especially in this situation. Why? Because the crate is your dog's safe space. The crate is going to be a place to where your dog knows that it is safe if you have properly crate trained your dog. If you haven't crate trained it, well, I would recommend crate training it if you can. If not, in this case, just take it to whatever its safe place is. Odds are your dog's got a dog bed or something that it's the safe place the dog loves to go, and it knows it's not going to be bothered there. Then turn on some white noise. I would probably turn on a few different forms of white noise. Get a fan, maybe even get like a sound machine. Turn on a TV. Just get a few things to create just a lot of just general noise. And what that's going to do is essentially suppress when the fireworks start happening. It's not going to get rid of all the sounds altogether, but it's going to create enough noise that when the fireworks happen, it's going to lessen the impact, so to speak, because there's already so much noise going on. And it doesn't have to be like over the top loud noise. It just needs to be just general background white noise types of thing. Um, that's kind of going to be one of your best bets. And if you can do that, then you're going to be in a good position. Now, again, when the fireworks are happening, if you start to see your dog panic, don't worry about it. If your dog's in the crate, don't go say, "Hey, it's okay, buddy." Don't even acknowledge that the sounds are going off. Your job is to ignore the sounds yourself, and then your dog's going to pick up on that as well. So those are some things that you can do to really help you in this situation. Let me finally add this one other thing. If you're going to take your dog with you to see these fireworks, maybe it's already experienced the fireworks, be sure to have it on a lead. That way, if something happens, maybe a firework lands too close or something, that it doesn't scare it and run off in the night and in the dark, and all of a sudden you've lost your dog on probably one of the worst nights of the year to lose a dog because of all the sounds going off everywhere. So just make sure you've got them secured and they're safe. Specifically talking about an older dog here, I would not take a puppy and put them in this situation. You would want to slowly acclimate them to that. So that said, those are some things you can do to help yourself with gunfire. Let me actually add this one last component to this podcast, and that's what do you do if things like you're listening to this after the 4th of July and like you basically did everything wrong and now your dog's afraid of these situations? First things first, don't panic and don't really go to the worst case scenario that it's all over, it'll never get better. It's not good. I'll just shoot you straight. It is not good, especially if maybe you were not aware of these things or maybe you disregarded them and didn't think it was a big deal and now you found yourself in that situation. But it's not the end of the world. What would be bad is to then try to go fix the problem. I see so often we get people at Cornerstone that maybe have just found out about us. Their dog's 2 or 3 years old and they've ran into a ton of problems. They've got this huge bird's nest of a problem before them. And come to find out, one of the things was as they found problems, they just started attacking the problems head on and trying to make it better. Very rarely when it comes to training a dog is that the best course of action. One of the best course of action is just to keep moving forward in training and to keep building that bond and that rapport and that relationship with the dog, and then reintroduce them to something later. Like, for example, an aversion, something they're scared of or afraid of. If it was, let's say, the fireworks situation, let's say you had a terrible experience, the dog got extremely afraid and you messed up and you consoled your dog. Yes, it's not good, but moving forward, you can not worry about that by trying to make it better and fix it by putting the dog back in the situation. You go around the block, so to speak, and instead start building relationship in regular training. Then you're going to face that situation again in the future. And then when you do in the future, you take the right steps. Because there's been such a delay between when that problem happened and in the future, when you have to face that challenge again, you have spent enough time building a relationship and rapport, and you've developed your dog's confidence enough that when it does happen, it hopefully has forgot that it ever happened, and if it didn't forget, then it hopefully is at least trusting you enough to walk through it with you. So if you find yourself in that situation, maybe you're watching this or listening to this after all of this, after America's 250th and something happened, take heart. You can still work through these challenges, and it's not going to be the way that most would think. Again, don't attack the problem head on. Create some distance, create some space. between that bad experience and when they're reintroduced to that again. And then hopefully you can develop a love for it. In fact, you'll hear more about that on the Built From Here podcast on the latest one, and I'll link it below with CG member Brandon. He kind of ran into a big problem with fireworks, and he actually ran into a problem on birds and water entry as well. So basically, the big three for a waterfowl guy that wants to have a great duck hunting dog, he had a problem with all three, and he was able to navigate through it. And you'll very much enjoy hearing how he navigated through it. So that said, enjoy America's 250th. Get out there, celebrate, have a great time, enjoy yourself, protect your dog, make sure you follow these steps, and things should go extremely well for you. Finally, I'm going to link up a blog below as well so that you can skim through it and read it. It would be great to read on the day of, and even before and after the fireworks. I do have to add one more thing. Sorry, guys. The thing to understand too is that fireworks don't always happen on just the 4th. They happen a couple of days before, and then sometimes even weeks after. So just keep that in the back of your mind as well, that if you do find yourself in the situation past the 4th and it's not a random occurrence, follow the steps we've recommended, and it's going to help a lot. So I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. If you have, please share it with someone, or maybe you know someone that has a dog that you're concerned about. Share it with them. Let them listen to this, and it can help them as they face potential fireworks stuff and a potential scare. And hopefully we can create confidence instead of fear for your dog. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.